Mic check, 1, 2. So, who's ever here, can you send a message? Testing, testing. Check, 1, 2. Check, check. So I'm just waiting for some people to get here. Don't know if anyone's gonna come. Hope that sound can hear me okay. Testing, testing, check, 1, 2. Testing, testing, check, 1, 2. Coming through again, brother?
Yep.
Right on. Well, we're live, so
Oh, yeah.
if you just wanna, that thing right there, if you just wanna keep an eye on that thing, if somebody like, I don't know,
Alright.
puts in a comment or some shit, you don't have to touch anything, but, sorry, I just swore. But,
Nah.
yeah. Alright. Well, music's over. Hope that everybody can hear everything good. So this is the JsGrassFedGarden PowerPoint presentation. Just want to see if anybody is here. Nobody's here in the physical, and nobody's here in the virtual. So this will just be recorded, and if anybody wants to hop in, they can feel free to hop in. So, what are the benefits of the grass-fed garden? Explained in detail. Farm history. Went from a red potato farm to a cow farm, and then it was bush hog / hay, and now it has been moved. It has been a mowed lawn for 20, it's probably more like 30 years. So wow, that's a lot of compaction, steadily over a long period of time. When you walk on this lawn, it is as hard as cement. It's comparable. It's really compacted land, and it's from all of those heavy machineries, and I mean, the cows were bringing fertility to the land, but the point is that it's just been non-stop compaction until now that I've implemented my practices in the little space, 40 feet by 40 feet garden that I have available to me. So how can we create a productive garden without tilling the soil? Well, we're about to find out. So nature creates our inputs for us. Grass, unsprayed round bales, wood chips, compost, leaves. Use what's available to you. By committing your garden to natural inputs / the grass-fed system, you no longer will be spending money on man-made inputs, fertilizers, chemicals. That is true regenerative farming, not reliant upon outside inputs. I would also suggest against newspaper and cardboard, because a lot of the times they're filled with chemicals, and it's best to go with what nature creates for us. Let's try to move away from that black plastic mulch, and here's why. Microplastics. I have an article there, a quote from the article: do your own research as always. Why we should, they're saying that we're absorbing about a credit card's worth of microplastics per week. So if that's the case, then we want to minimalize our intake of plastic as much as we can. So why would we want to have black plastic or landscaping fabric with who knows what has it in it, probably made with some toxic materials. So we just want to minimalize that as much as possible and use what nature creates for us. The quote from the article: we can stop looking now, said Horton, who studies microplastic pollution in the UK's National Oceanography Center. We know wherever we look, we will find them. So, yeah, I don't know how true that is. It's just a guy saying something about But yeah, I feel called to believe that there's definitely a high amount of pollution, period, but definitely microplastics from all the bottles that go into the landfill, they just get thrown off the side of the road. Just think about all that trash out there. So, not only is there black plastic landscaping fabric, but there also is the plastic seed trays that we use to grow our seedlings. So to move away from that, I would suggest going with soil blocks. So there's a little video here from Elliot Coleman.
To make sure that there's plenty of nitrogen to get these little plants off to a good start. Again, 2 tablespoons that there's plenty.
I could probably just explain what's going on here. So we've got 2 tablespoons of green sand, 2 tablespoons of phosphate rock, 2 tablespoons of dried blood meal. Go a little bit more. What do we got? So then it's to 3 parts peat moss, 1 part perlite, and then I believe, yes, 3 parts of compost. So you're basically making your own seed mix with all of the nutrients and microbiology from the compost that's already active in the garden. So these plants will get a little bit of activity from the garden before they go in there. So they'll already be kind of adapted to your soil. The soil block, it naturally air prunes on the sides, so there's no wrap. So when you leave a seedling in a plastic seed holder for too long, you'll see that it just like gets wound up and root bound on the bottom because the roots have nowhere to go. With the soil block, it just air prunes off to the side, and they do not wrap with each other. And this is the first year that I've fully started to practice this practice, and I can say so that it truly does work. So let's just get a little quick Elliot Coleman action, making the soil blocks.
I press this into it, push hard down to the bottom, and then eject them. And there I have perfect little cubes of potting soil, not needing any walls, in which plants can grow. What are the advantages? Well, you notice there's a little indentation in the top in which I put the seed. The walls, without any container around them, have air pruning on all sides where they're next to the others, and the roots of the plants in there grow to the edge and wait, and then they're ready to take off when they go in the ground. Now, celery grows quite slowly, so I wouldn't want to start celery in a block this big because I would have a lot of these big blocks hanging around, taking up a lot of room. So there's other techniques, even more fun. This is a soil block maker that makes 20 tiny little blocks.
So then we got the mini blocker. Start them in the mini blocks. They germinate. You keep them in there for about 10 to 12 days. Move them up to the 2-inch block, and then they'll stay in the 2-inch block for about 3 to 4 weeks. And then they have the 4-inch block. I'm pretty sure there's the 3/4. There's a smaller. There's a mid-sized block between the 2-inch and the mini. So there's the 4-incher, and that one can be used for tomatoes, peppers, pretty much anything. But to give you even a longer time to keep that plant growing up before you transplant it. So let's try to move away from the microplastics, and that is using the grass-fed system, which we're going to get into a little bit more, and using soil blocks, getting away from those plastic seed trays. Why should we keep the soil covered? The soil is able to retain / absorb moisture better than if the soil was left bare. It helps to prevent erosion and is able to better filter chemicals. Meaning by that if you have a lot of plants growing, that area is going to be able to filter chemicals that may have been potentially contaminating that area. And there's certain plants for certain contaminants, but we're not going to get into that. Helps to keep down / suppress weeds. Weed seeds germinate, then die. The only reason weeds grow is because the soil wants to be covered. So as long as we keep the soil covered with the grass, we have no weeds. So the sun hits the bare soil, whatever weed seeds are in the seed bank germinate, and then there you go, they sprout. So as long as we keep the soil covered, the sun can't hit the bare soil, and then no weed seeds can make it through the grass. They get suppressed, they die, and then you can transplant in your soil block into your layer of grass. So the soil life seems much happier from my observations. The worms and other life forms are most of the time found crawling right under the grass when you pull it back. Usually no worms or other soil life are visible when the soil is bare. And I've worked on farms where there is no coverage whatsoever, whether it be black plastic, just, we're talking no cover crop, just bare dirt blowing in there, and there's no worms, no crawlers visible. So no soil life period visible when it's completely bare. Helps to build organic matter. And just a quick note on that. Well, getting a little off track here. Stick to the points. So, helps to build organic matter, grass, wood chips, manure, cover crops, leaving the root systems in the ground instead of pulling them out, just cutting them off at the top, and then top dressing with compost and all of the worm droppings. So it is said that the highest concentration of soil life is in the first 2 inches of the soil. So when we till, we're destroying the mycorrhizal and the mycelium network. So we want to keep that intact as much as we can. That's how our plants communicate with the rest of the ecosystem. So not only are the highest concentration of soil life found in the first 2 inches, but so are the weed seeds. So when you till the soil, you're bringing up all those dormant weed seeds that otherwise, if you just kept it covered and did minimal digging, you're not going to bring up any of those weed seeds. They would stay dormant or just germinate and die. So over time, you basically can have a weed-free garden if you really stay on top of it. There is no such thing, or there is such thing as a one-time till for really compacted soil, but there's also, got something coming up here. There's also other ways, find out soon. And here's a visual comparison. Obviously that's not what, so if you keep your soil covered, we all know what great soil looks like. Maybe you don't, but it's nice, deep, dark, rich, has life to it, structure to it. And if you don't keep it covered, then it turns into sand, and then it blows away in the air. So by keeping the soil covered, we're actually right now, when I just said that, I'm thinking about the Dust Bowl. you know, so it's already happened once.
Yeah.
And so even if they kept on continuing to spray the pesticides and all the chemicals, fungicides, herbicides, but at the end and they grew the genetically modified corn, but at the end of the year, instead of leaving the cornfield completely bare, they just planted it to a cover crop, maybe oats, winter rye, clover, maybe a trifecta of like some Austrian winter pea, some stuff that'll overwinter. You can keep the soil covered and continue to build the organic matter, and like as I stated earlier on, that you know, obviously all the chemicals are still going to be there, but it's going to help keep the soil in place and filtrate all those chemicals as well, as long as they're not spraying the cover crop as well, which would just be, but you never know what people do. So why should we keep records? I have my record book with me here today. Just gonna check on the live chat real quick and see if anybody's tuning in. One watching. Hey, if the one person watching, can you just send something in the chat and let me know you can hear everything okay? Maybe not. Oh, the one person watching is me over here on this computer. Oh, interesting. So, alright, get back to it. So why should we keep records? I have my record book here with me today. No 2 years are the same, no two properties / gardens are the same. Find what works best for your land / microclimate. We can't depend on radar and the weather people / sites. I'm led to believe it's in our best interest to be more observant of the ever-changing patterns and document what we think is worthy. After a few years, you can start to compare and contrast your own records and move forward based off of them. Try to plant crops on the same day each year or within a few days of what it was the previous year. That's just some of my motto. That's what I try to follow. I feel called that if you save the seed and then replant it on the same day every year, it's just going to become ever more adapted each year. So saving seed and buying organic, open pollinated seed from good companies. We can adapt our plants to ever-changing patterns by saving our seed each year, which I was just saying. With all the rain we have received this season, over 2 feet, probably 3 feet at this point. All of the crops that I have saved seed from last year, tomatoes, pumpkins, lettuce, garlic, potatoes, those crops are doing the best. Also, by purchasing from local / regional seed companies, you have a better chance of getting seeds that are already more adapted to your area. So some of the seed companies that I support are Galusha Hill Seeds in northern Vermont. We have High Mowing Organic Seeds in northern Vermont. Wood Prairie Family Farm Organic Potatoes and Seeds. And Hudson Valley Seed Co. from Accord, New York. Those are the four main seed companies that I support. Cattle is not the only herd on the farm. There's the macro herd, cows, sheep, goats, pigs, chickens, horses. And there's the micro herd, the worms, and the billions of microorganisms that are the life of the soil. So the microbiology, everything that we can't see going on, the mycelium network, which you can see, and all of the mycorrhizal fungi. Mycorrhizal fungi is the mycelium network, I believe, or I might have that mixed up. Need to get my facts straight, but for the most part, I'm on point with what I'm saying about that. But essentially what I'm saying is about this, is that everybody thinks about cows, the sheep, the goats, pigs, all the animals on the farm, which we need to keep the fertility on the land. A lot of farms don't have animals anymore, and the manure is always what kept the land fertile. But with the grass-fed system, the idea is, what if we took that first cut of nutritious grass from the pasture, and instead of feeding it to the macro herd, we feed it to the micro herd. So feeding it to all of the worms and the microbiology, they're pulling it down, they don't have to go anywhere to get their food, and then they are reproducing and fertilizing right in the root zones of the plants, right where you want them to be. When is Mow Day? Mow Day is on May 15th in Vermont. Says the scythe book right here. By getting your first cut of hay / grass at around the time that allows, around this time allows for the pasture to grow up with grass equally as nutritious as the first cut, another 2 or most likely 3 times, and I can safely say that with such of a rainy year, I am going to get a 4th cut of hay off of about the ½ acre to 3/4 of an acre field that I mow. So for the grass-fed system, it's great, but also if you have animals, think about the value that that could have. Most farmers can't start the hay until the fields have dried up a bit from the winter moisture and spring rains, or else their tractors will sink and make big ruts, most likely get stuck. By the time they can start, which is early to mid-June, in really wet years, sometimes not until August, by this time the hay is far past its nutritional peak. It won't make butter, but it'll keep them alive, as one farmer stated. So the benefits of the European scythe, however you want to say it, it doesn't require gas, which means as long as you are alive and well, the scythe is as well. There's no pollution. Easier on wildlife habitat. You can be way more thoughtful with what you're doing. No more noise, no motor noise, good skill to have. You can harvest grain with them. Multi-purpose tool, there's grass blades, ditch blades, bush blades. It's a handmade tool, and it brings people together / creates, builds community, and you are self-reliant. In the way that it builds community, for instance, it's not something that everyone's doing. So maybe you and your neighbor don't talk to each other, and he sees you out there. You started mowing your field, and he feels called to come over and ask, what are you doing? Boom, and now you guys start collaborating. Maybe he gets aside, help you start mowing the pasture, you guys get animal, who knows, but it definitely, it's a conversation starter, and I believe it can create community and bring people together. So the benefits in staying small: you get to know your land very well. You don't miss out on priceless observation that would otherwise be overlooked if you were more spread out. If you know your land better each year, you can grow more food each year on the same amount of space. No crazy mortgage or loans. Smaller properties are easier to pay for in full, or you can work out a land share agreement like I have. The woman who lets me have my garden on her land was nice enough. She just had a previously mowed lawn. I wanted to make a garden, which is now a small-scale farm, and she was more than willing to give me the opportunity. So I'm led to believe that there's plenty of people like that out there in the world, so don't get discouraged if you don't have the land, you don't have the money, you live in an apartment. There's plenty of land out there, and there's plenty of opportunities and people to meet. Just tell people about what you want to start doing and get involved in, and you will align with the correct people. So you're not reliant upon machines, which means all of your work can be done with hand tools. In terms of actually farming, you are 100% self-sufficient and not reliant upon the gas line infrastructure, besides for the transportation of goods, unless the delivery spot is in biking distance. Maybe you have a farm stand where people come to you, so the pollution is on their end, but there's many options, and there's many benefits in staying small. I'm sure there's more. This is just what I have listed here right now. So the biodynamic calendar, not something that I see too many people talking about. There's leaf days, flower days, fruit days, and root days. And the book is The Biodynamic Year by Maria Thun. And that is a life-changing book. And there is also the Stella Natur, I can never say it. This is the biodynamic calendar. You can purchase the biodynamic year at a bookstore, or if you use Amazon, it's on there. And the Stella Natur calendar, boom, 2023. It'll tell you every single day what it is, what day is which, whether it's a leaf day, flower day, fruit day, root day, plant leaf days, plant leaf crops on leaf days, harvest on root days or fruit days for best storage, flower days, plant and harvest on flower days, fruit days, plant and harvest on fruit days, and root days, harvest and plant on root days. So there's actually pictures here in this book showing how they planted carrots on a root day, and then they planted carrots not on a root day, and the ones that were planted on a root day came out beautifully straight, looking like a nice, beautiful carrot, and the ones that weren't planted on a root day came out all straggly, and they didn't know what they were trying to do. So the bricks, there is a beautiful documentary that I highly recommend.
Consumption, when I see fit for human consumption,
Boom. And so what we got here is the leaf bricks chart. This is called How Bricks Levels Impact Insect Pressure on Plants. Dr. Thomas Dijkstra. I hope I didn't butcher that. But anyways, in short, I highly suggest please go do your own research on this, because I don't have a bricks recording meter myself, but I do observe insects eating leaves on my plants. And when I snip the dead leaf, the leaf that they're attacking off the plant, the rest of the plant recovers. So that tells me that that one leaf was the only unhealthy part of the plant. But I feel if you were to leave that unhealthy leaf on the plant, then the disease could spread to the rest of the plant. So basically, if you have a healthy plant, it literally cannot be attacked by insects. And depending on what the bricks level, and bricks, I forgot to even say what that was, but it's the levels of sugars in the sap of your plant. And that's tested on a chart of 1 to 20. So, like he says here, it's a 1 to 2, force feeding is necessary, and a 3 to 8, your plant has a fighting chance of surviving. From 8 to 12, insect resistance begins. That's the sword and shield. And then from 12 to 20 bricks, it's fit for human consumption, no insects, no disease, objectively healthy. So I think that that is pretty cool, and meter in the future, but for right now I just keep on observing the dead leaves, and it's amazing because that tells me that it's like you see all these, for instance, like cucumber beetles attacking pumpkins or cucumbers, and but it's just on this one leaf, and it's like, oh no, the plant, but the plant it has this whole established root system. It can recover as long as you just snip off the bad part. At least that's what I've observed. So the grass-fed system increases soil life, which in return increases the fertility. The higher the fertility, the higher the plants, the healthier the plants. So it's not necessarily about making the soil better, it's about increasing. What I mean by that, it's not about like, I guess it is about building up your organic matter in some sense, but what I mean by it's not about making the soil better, because everybody wants to be like, oh yeah, like you're gonna have this changed soil structure. Your soil is always gonna be the native soil that it is. You can increase the organic matter, but what it's really about is increasing your overall soil life, which in return is what helps your plants grow better and healthier. Once reached a certain point of health, they literally cannot be attacked by pests, as I just stated. And that's that 12 to 20 bricks. So building a new garden space very easily with little disturbance. Lay the space with a thick layer of grass just 6 weeks before you want to plant. Or lay it with grass in the fall, leaves, wood chips, whatever you have. Well, no, let's just focus on grass. After the time has passed, the living grass will now be erased. You can pull back that mulch layer from the fall and plant as a bed of potatoes in the spring. When the potatoes harvest in July, have a bunch of cold hardy, late summer, fall transplants ready, then at the end of the season can be planted to garlic. Harvest garlic next July and have a primed bed for seeding annuals. Now the way I explained it there is just so you can like always have something growing, but you could grow the garlic first and then plant it to fall crops when you harvest the garlic in mid-July or wherever you at, depending on what time you harvest, depending on what zone you're in. You could do the potatoes and then harvest them and then do the veggies and then the garlic, like I said, in here. But there's plenty ways to break up the soil, like with the garlic and the potatoes. Then you have to deep dig to get them, so there was no tilling done. It's just thoughtful digging and with thoughtful weeding, and then as long as you after that keep it covered with the grass, you'll have a pretty weed-free bed. So it's pretty amazing that all of this can be done and you didn't even have to till. The potatoes and the garlic help do the work for us. Although, if it's still compacted, you can broad fork and then top dress with soil and compost. So, going
Grand Rising.
to here,
In about 6 months.
just about what I was explaining. The leaves are the pathways, and the grass are the beds. So I just, laid wood chips where I wanted the pathway to be. It was fall time, so I used the leaves. I eventually ended up putting wood chips on top of these, left the grass really thick mulch, and in November I planted these to soft net garlic. It was grass on and leaves on top of grass. And I poked my finger in the hole and in the ground and stuck the garlic clove in that hole. And then, this is what it looks like now.
This is a really,
So here we are, that was November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, August. So 8 months later, we didn't till any of this. From here, where my hand is, over, was just grass and wood chips. The wood chips laid for the pathways, grass laid for the beds, and the bed is right here, pathway, this is a big bed. And then this spring I put grass all over the wood chip pathways. So quite amazing what you can do with the grass-fed system. And all of these are sweet potato slips, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, those were all started from a soil block, planted in the mini, in the living room, let it germinate, stay in the living room for 10 days. Then I bring them up here, put them in the next block size, and then they stay on my little tray table out there for about, like I said, 4 weeks. And then you just pull the grass and stick them in. And this is where I harvested potatoes. You would just pull that grass back, there's soil in there, and now I've direct sowed that to daikon radishes and spinach. So, I kind of just wanted to show what it looks like now that it's three weeks later.
I'm definitely ready, to take it, pasture. So,
Here's the seedlings that I was just talking about.
we have the next round of
So we got kale, cabbage, kohlrabi, spinach, and Swiss chard. I'm going to be putting these in the ground Sunday. And here is what the garden looks like. So I mean, it is just thriving right now. Over 3 feet of rain this garden has received, and the pumpkins, just everything, just cabbage, medicinal cannabis, tomatoes, Jerusalem artichokes, potatoes, radishes, lettuce, kale, Brussels sprouts, the acorn squash, delicata squash, New England pod pumpkins, long pod pumpkins, many different varieties of tomatoes, 8 different varieties of potatoes, 17 different varieties of garlic, saving seed off of all lettuce, elderberry cuttings that are rooted, currant cuttings, jostaberry cuttings, I said kohlrabi, onions, pepper plants, eggplants, all of this in daikon radishes, spring radishes, summer radishes, and winter radishes. All of this in 40 by 40 feet of space on the grass-fed system. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm gonna continue my journey, continue working on all this. It's already thinking about next year, already thinking about the fall. That was the one, I guess, the one other thing I didn't show,
I'm definitely ready.
or explain in a deeper detail from the video, but I have you here, so we might as well just run it through real quick.
Here in 2022 and now for
There you go, I'm just explaining that. So this is on November 5th. Look at how beautiful these greens were. They were in this low tunnel for about 6 weeks. Yeah, so from about mid-September, I direct sowed them, or in the first week of September, and then went all of September, all of October. So 8 weeks from direct sow. Red mustard greens, green mustard greens, Mizuno Asian greens. So I'm gonna do this again this year. Like I was saying, saving your seed and then planting it on the same date. So this green mustard green overwintered in this little low tunnel, saw negative 40 degrees, and I saved the seed off of that. Now, this year, in the first week of September, I'm gonna take this same mustard green seed that I already saw negative 40 degrees, I'm gonna plant it on the same day that it got planted last year, and that'll make it more readily adapted to what is to come for the winter time. And then if I keep on doing that every year, eventually we just have all these really cold hardy Vermont adapted varieties. So between wanting to be a small scale nursery stock, you pick berries, grow all of the mixed vegetables, garlic production, saving seed, possibly a small scale seed company, and sticking to the grass-fed system, only using hand tools, using the European scythe, it's a lot, and I feel honored to be on this path and keep myself dedicated and motivated, and I hope that this can inspire others in some way, shape, or form. So it's gonna be one love wholeness. If we work with nature, we can build resilient food systems for ourselves and the next generations. That's where we're at. If anybody comes to watch this, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. And we out.